Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Good morning again. I really hope today we see a launch with 4 humans going to the International Space Station for Crew-11. Those of you that are just now tuning in, maybe you missed yesterday's launch attempt that had a 90%, I think it was 85% go for launch with basically only a 15% chance of weather violation. And of course, you know, the odds sometimes don't go in your favor, and unfortunately a thunder cloud went right over top of the launch pad right when they were about to lift off. They were literally within it was right there. So at T-minus 1 minute yesterday, they scrubbed. So boo, but that means we're back at it today again, and hopefully today, unfortunately today, there's a 60% chance to go, 40% chance of violation. However, that's only talking kind of like at the launch pad. That violation doesn't always take into effect things like upper level winds or especially downrange abort zone weather, which could be issues today. So they're keeping an eye on it. They're talking quite a bit. I'm going to kind of just fly through our pre-launch preview in case you're, didn't see yesterday's and in case you're watching this in, retrospect. I just want to keep you informed and give you kind of the typical run of show, and then we'll get caught up here when they get ready to arm the abort system. Actually, they might be almost doing that right now. So let's fly. Wait, I think that's T-minus 1 hour. So they might have already done it. Okay, anyway, let's cut here. We'll go to the pre-launch preview, and then we'll catch up on what's going on. So again, this is supposed to be taking off today, hopefully, weather pending, August 1st, 2025. And as you can see right here in the screen over there, we are T-minus just under an hour. So the mission for this is Crew-11, the launch provider. This is a SpaceX rocket. It's specifically, it's a Falcon 9, and this is particularly the B1094-3. So that's the booster 1094. It's the 94th booster they've made. The third flight, that's what the -3 means. And it last flew 37 days ago. So that's actually these days almost a slow turnaround time, but because it's a crew booster, we kind of give it an extra fine-tooth comb there. So this is the customers for this is NASA, of course. This is a NASA mission with a JAXA astronaut, as well as we still do this seat swapping with Roscosmos. So there is also a Russian cosmonaut on board, and we'll continue that partnership, I think, as long as the International Space Station is operational. The launch location, this is taking off from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This is one of 2 crewed launch pads now there at the Cape. 2 for SpaceX. The Slick 40 is also the other option. But of course we have the Starliner launch pad as well for Atlas and Vulcan. So there's actually 4, and then yeah, 39B for SLS and Artemis 2 will be coming up. So there's 4 crewed launch pads. I don't know why that's just now hitting me. That's a lot. Yeah. We haven't seen that since the Apollo program, really. Okay, payload mass. It's around, probably around 12 tons is about how much the Dragon capsule tends to be. 12 and a half-ish. Where is the spacecraft going? This is going to the International Space Station, which is about 400 kilometers above the Earth at a 51.6 degree inclination. So 260 miles above the Earth, orbiting every 90 minutes. So they gotta, take off right when the path of the orbit is over top of the launch pad. And when and sometimes it's, a decent rendezvous. Today actually is a lot shorter rendezvous because of just the phasing of where the International Space Station is compared to where they are when they launch. So, I forget what it is. Was it 14 hours? I already forgot. But I think the new opportunity today is a lot shorter. I think it's 14 hours instead of 39 like yesterday. So actually they'll get to the space station about the same time, which is really interesting. This will be this 169th orbital launch of 2025. I don't know if we updated this from yesterday because I think there was a Starlink launch last night. 97th SpaceX mission of the year, 94th Falcon 9 mission of the year, 500th Falcon recovery attempt, 537th overall SpaceX mission, 516-day turnaround for Dragon, and the 6th flight for Dragon Endeavour. It was originally designed for 5. They certified it for 6. And then you can see the crew on board here. We have Commander Zena Cardman, who this is her first flight, which is awesome. She got bumped from Crew 9 Ended up having to broadcast Crew-9 liftoff when it only had 2 out of the 4 seats filled. She was supposed to be on 2 of the seats that were not filled. And so she got bumped, and they had to keep 2 seats empty for the crew of Boeing Starliner, who was still on the International Space Station and needed a safe ride home. So, yeah, that's awesome. She finally gets to fly. We have pilot Mike Fincke, who is a veteran astronaut, flown 3 missions prior. Yeah, awesome. He's been deeply involved with the commercial crew program from the start. Then we have mission specialist Kimiya Yui, who is also a veteran. I believe has flown, was it twice? Oh, here we go. Just once. Flew once before in 2015. So this will be his 2nd flight. That's awesome. And then we also have another rookie here, mission specialist Oleg Platonov, who, yeah, from Roscosmos. So we actually have, that's our crew here today. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see where we're at here. Okay, they're in the studio. So I'll take your guys' questions while we wait here for the rest of everything to go on. Hopefully we learn some new things here, and hopefully we find out if this thing's actually going to go today, because this is my last opportunity here today. I'm gone this weekend, so unless it moves to next week, yeah, we'll find out here. So, all right, let's answer this. If you guys have questions, go ahead and just ask them there in the chat. If you tag at Everyday Astronaut, it pops up in our little queue a little easier. We still pull stuff from everywhere, so if you have questions, ask them. And I'm going to start taking questions here, starting off with Andromeda Aerospace asks, do wider rockets withstand higher winds? So, okay, I need to kind of make sure I know the answer to this, but there's a few things at play. Actually, the Mercury Atlas and Mercury Redstone is perfect. Not to be Mr. Product Placement here or anything, but this is about as perfect an example as you can get. They're almost the same height. Like they're within, 15% of each other's height. Atlas is a lot wider. So the fineness ratio of these 2 rockets, technically, the Redstone is a finer rocket than the Atlas because its width to height ratio is different. So that means the ratio between how tall it is versus how wide it is higher on the Mercury Redstone. Mercury Atlas is not as fine of a rocket. And the fineness of a rocket is a very big factor in basically how strong, especially bending forces, how, if you imagine a really, really, really long pole, like say you stacked markers, those markers that can stack end to end to end. Let's say you just had 2 of them or 1 of them, that bending force is going to be really strong. You don't have to worry about snapping that one marker. If you stack 5 of them on top of each other, you could literally easily just go dink like that and it just snap down the middle, right? So that's that bending force that we're worried about. So the width of the rocket doesn't necessarily make it stronger to winds, withstand higher winds per se, but it helps if it's a higher or a lower fineness ratio. It can help with some of those bending forces. However, with a wider rocket comes higher surface area. However, with wider rockets also comes larger weight and larger mass. So a large, huge rocket should be less susceptible to wind forces than, say, a bottle rocket, right? I mean, obviously there's just more mass there, and it takes more energy to move that mass around. So in general, a wider, bigger rocket is going to be less susceptible to wind stuff. One more quick note on that, though. See in the background here, I have the Falcon Heavy in the middle. Falcon Heavy versus a Falcon 9 actually has different wind constraints for ground winds, because at the one angle, from this angle when you're looking straight on, it can, if wind's hitting it straight on like that, it has 3 times more surface area almost. And so it can get pushed and be pushed in towards ground equipment or ground support equipment, and the wind has a higher effect on it versus the other way. So if the wind is coming this way, the ground wind is coming this way, where it's all 3 cores are aligned, it might be able to withstand and take off in higher winds than if the wind is 90 degrees to that, where it's hitting all 3 cores. So I just thought that's interesting. That's my rant about rocket widths. Patrick, 71 months of membership? I didn't even know we had membership 71 months ago. How did you hack YouTube to make it so you can be a supporter 71 months ago? That's incredible. Thank you very much, Patrick. You got to be one of the longest. I don't think we had memberships much more. I didn't even think we had them 5 years ago. So thank you so much, Patrick. I hope it's one of those lovely rains, a lovely rainy day in Germany. Some of those summer rains are kind of fun, where it's just a nice, pleasant rain. Let's see here. John Ulrich, how long will they spend in orbit before rendezvous? I believe, okay, I literally just forgot, but I'm pretty sure it's 14 hours. I just read it last night, and now I'm pretty sure it's 14 hours. It's a lot shorter than yesterday. It's over half as long. It's almost will arrive at the same time that they would have yesterday. Just happens because of orbital, rendezvous and orbital mechanics. That's just how this opportunity lines up. So, yeah, it's a lot shorter, but I don't remember. Maybe in chat, if you guys can remind me, is it 14 hours? Because I don't exactly remember off the top of my head. And I'm kind of just listening here to make sure. Okay, they're just doing kind of stuff, but they're going to start prop loading at 42. So around 45 minutes or so, we'll usually hear from launch director, who will let us know if they go for prop load. That's the big thing that we're waiting on is, they load propellant. Once they start loading propellant, then it's game on, right? So that's if there's questions in weather and things like that. If they just see there's absolutely no go for the sea states and things like that in the recovery zones, in the case of an abort, then we would know about it at this T-minus 45 minutes or so. So we're going to listen in around then, but until then, I'll keep answering some questions. Thank you so much, Michael, for 8 months of membership. Sometimes I go to Epcot and ride mission space and pretend I'm a real astronaut. Don't we all? Don't we all sometimes have to do that? Ooh, hold on. I want to hear about this.
Modified Dragon designed to guide the space station through a controlled re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
And when the time comes and the International Space Station reaches the end of its orbital life and mission, Dragon will help achieve a safe deorbit.
And another innovation SpaceX has been working on is the intravehicular spacesuits, or IVA suits, that astronauts wear during Dragon missions. Our team recently made some design upgrades to make the suit easier to get in and out of, and to make it easier to incorporate future updates. The new suits have height adjustability built in, so they won't need as much customization as with previous designs.
Now you can see the crew right there. The one that's wearing this new suit is astronaut Mike Fincke, which is the second one from the left. Today's mission, Fincke will be the only one wearing this new suit as the Crew-11 pilot. And that said, we expect to see SpaceX's new IVA suit on all astronauts for Crew-12. But astronauts who have previously flown on SpaceX missions still have the option to continue wearing their original suits. And for the Crew-11 astronauts, they are staying comfortable in their suits right now as they prepare for liftoff while the clock continues to roll back. And we'll check in with Ronnie on the status of today's countdown.
Thanks so much, Joseph. So we are coming up on just under 46 minutes to launch, and our teams are carefully moving through our pre-flight process. Next up in the countdown, we're going to hear SpaceX's launch director check in with the team for readiness. And that's readiness both for propellant load and for launch. As mentioned earlier, the Dragon launch team, as well as key NASA launch members, are in the Launch and Landing Control Center at SpaceX's Hangar X in Florida. Our launch director will also check in with the Dragon mission director, referred to as MD, and the NASA launch manager to make sure they're ready to move forward as well. Of course, our Crew-11 astronauts right now are on board Dragon, waiting to get the green light to stow the crew arm for launch and arm the launch escape system. Got some great shots of our astronauts on the left-hand side of your screen right now, and of course they are safely tucked inside Dragon on the right-hand side. Once we hear that launch director give the go-ahead, we'll get a great view of that access arm moving away from the spacecraft.
So, yep, this is good news. We're
going to stand by here and listen in for that final poll. And some instructions to our team in that final lead up to liftoff.
One thing they did earlier, the launch director or mission director was calling out that some of the astronauts didn't have their feet down in the proper restraints there. And I think that's because when you come up and start getting ready to arm the abort system, your feet need to be in those straps.
And launch is complete. Stand by for briefing on control room procedures. For all operators at MCCX and Hangar X, both control rooms will go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and will remain in that state until LES is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbital insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they will approve aborting the count. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into launch abort. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual flight escape rules. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Arming crew arm now.
Sweet. Crew arm's swinging back. Any second, hopefully.
So we just heard those instructions to our team. Again, we're about to see that crew access arm move away from the spacecraft.
Crew access arm retraction started.
Starting right now. And with that, propellant loading is going to get underway here in a little bit less than 10 minutes. So with that, let's check back in with Daryl and Nick.
And you can see now the crew access arm articulating away from the Dragon Endeavour, where our crew of 4 is inside. That's a beautiful shot there. A big milestone after getting the go from the launch director at SpaceX. A look from inside the crew access arm now.
I love that shot.
And out over the Space Coast. In this moment in between having the crew access arm rotate away and the arming of the launch escape system, there's a little buffer there where the astronauts will be on their own until that can be armed. And then we start tanking the rocket.
Right, so everything is leading up to
Crew access arm retraction
adding
completed.
the propellant, adding the oxidizer, filling those tanks on the rocket. And so what do you need to do to be safe for that? Well, I need to arm the launch escape system, but I don't want to do that when the arm is right next to the capsule. So I need to move the arm away. Now I can arm the launch escape system, and then we can start filling the rocket.
T-minus 41 minutes and counting here at the Kennedy Space Center in
Dragon
Florida.
SpaceX, you are go for Section 6, close visors and arm launch escape system.
There we go.
Copy. Go for Section 6, closing visors and arming launch escape system.
Now we're talking.
Here's a beautiful shot from our helicopter looking west. You can see the formation of cumulus clouds in the area. Weather is a watch item for today. The launch weather officer.
Dragon, visors closed, arming launch escape system.
SpaceX copies.
The launch weather officer putting it at 60% go for today. The concern is the buildup of cumulus clouds, the ones that you see there building up. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. But although you see those clouds around the pad, notice as we start to circle around to the west and look east, clear skies out over the Atlantic Ocean. So when you look at this picture, Nick, you can certainly understand that even though we have clouds that are building in the area, there's an area that we can find over top of this launch complex that we could potentially
System is verified armed.
get clear enough path to launch this rocket.
Yeah, you just need a hole big enough to launch through. So you don't have to have cloudless skies.
Dragon,
You just need
looking
clear
to the
enough
east there.
skies.
Looking to the east looks way better.
Hole would be nice.
I think if we think enough positive thoughts here at the launch site, we can create that bubble.
I'm working on mine.
Me too.
And so we've been listening as they walk through the milestones here.
Cool. All right, so the next big milestone will be prop load at T-minus 35 minutes. So I'll just kind of keep listening here because they're just chilling right now. The launch abort system is armed. They're ready to go. If there's, when they start fueling, they have an escape system in case something would go wrong during the fuel up process. But 35 minutes, once the prop starts loading, the Falcon 9 is just basically, they launch this thing about every 2 or 3 days at this point. So that's a pretty safe procedure these days, and it goes down through the count, and it's pretty much no big deal, hopefully. So let's see here. This is from Dicebreeze. What are the ideal conditions for thy rocket? I'm guessing you maybe meant the rocket, but I like thy rocket instead. So ideal conditions, I mean, humidity's not great for rockets. Anything that can cause static. Electricity is not ideal for a rocket, so flying through thunderhead clouds, things like that are not good. So yeah, blue skies is pretty ideal, frankly. Low humidity is probably not a bad thing either, but you don't typically get either of those things in Florida, but Florida is an ideal location otherwise, considering just the southern latitude and it's the fact that you have just ocean to the east. You can even do polar launches from Florida, as we've seen in the past couple years, by doing a little bit of a dogleg maneuver. It's pretty cool. This is Eduardo wants to say, Tim, weird question. What's your favorite part of Starship? I mean, real parts like flaps, engines, heat shields. I think one of the most interesting things, I'll start with interesting. I think the flaps and the heat shields are extremely interesting. The novel reentry style of Starship is I think that's probably the most interesting thing. I think the engines, though, it's hard to not think that that's my favorite part, because I love rocket engines is still probably the thing that out of aerospace that I like the most. It's actually the engines, because it's kind of that is the rocket. You know, the rest of it's just a fuel tank for those engines, and then the payload. So I don't know. I love rocket engines, and Raptor's pretty exceptional. So especially the full flow stage combustion cycle is kind of what got me obsessed with all this stuff, or one of the things that got me pretty obsessed with this stuff. So I would say the engines. Thank you. Weird comment. I'm unfamiliar with that, so I don't want to like publicize it too much, but thank you very much. I'll look into it though for myself. Don wants to know if there is a successor to Crew Dragon, like Crew Dragon 2. Well, technically, don't forget, this is already Dragon 2. There's Cargo and Crew Dragon, but they're both considered Dragon 2. Dragon 1 was that kind of simpler capsule shape. It didn't have the cool cowlings over the abort systems, even though the Cargo has those same cowlings, even though it doesn't have Super Dracos in there. But I don't think that Dragon. Elon was trying to cancel Dragon earlier this year, or whenever that was, or last. Oh, we're coming up on it. So I'll just listen in a little bit. But I don't think there's going to be a successor to Dragon. I still personally would love to see a version of Starship that had a dedicated crew capsule that could pop out, like had a integrated heat shield and all these things, and had a way to be able to abort off the top of the second stage. I would still love that. I think that'd be nice to have, and you could call that something else, but I don't think we'll ever see another crew capsule. Let's see here. This is from JC Boy. How many rocket launches have I seen in person? I've only probably seen about 3 dozen or so. Probably around 30 to 35. I don't think I've seen that much more than that. There's a lot more. There's a lot of people that have seen a lot. John Krause has seen hundreds. Most of the people that live in Florida these days have seen way more launches than I ever have, just because of their frequency. But let's listen in quick, because we're good.
And prop load is
The launch auto sequence has started.
And there we have the signal that the automatic prop loading sequence is underway. All of this prop load that loads the 4 tanks, the 2 LOX tanks, and the 2 prop tanks sequentially is now being done. It's fully automated.
Yeah, and highly timed, choreographed so that these super cold liquids don't have an opportunity to boil off too much. And
cool. Okay, so that's a good sign. I like that. I like that we're moving forward. So they must have enough confidence that, and they're going to try. They're always going to try, because, you don't want to go, oh, the weather looks not ideal right now, let's just call it. They'll go right up until, because things can change right up until the last minute, just like yesterday. The inverse of yesterday can happen, where Yesterday there was only a 15% chance of violation and of course, literally it was trending fine until the very last minute, basically. I mean, it likely violated it before then, but they had to call it at the 1 minute mark. But it could be the inverse of that. It could be like trend, like not good, and violation up until the last minute, and they'll see, oh, we actually are clear at a 10-mile radius of any lightning and things like that, and they could go for it right there at the last minute. And if you don't load the rocket full of propellant, that is not an option. So let's see. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Dream Machine. My birthday was yesterday. I just wanted a shout out. Love your content. Always high quality and professional. Dream Machine, you're in great company there with a July 31st birthday. One of my best friends, Neil, his birthday was yesterday. Happy yesterday birthday, Neil. And one of my other best friends, also named Neil, his daughter's birthday is the 31st. So happy birthday to you as well as my other friends. That's awesome. Let's see. Can a rocket launch while raining? Technically, yes. There's nothing about rain per se. I mean, there might be things like the space shuttle didn't want to fly through rain because it could break the heat shield tiles because they were that fragile. But like Soyuz, so when you say can a rocket, I'll kind of say yes, rockets generally can, but it depends on specifics. So if there's a rocket that has thermal protection or some consideration exposed, like on the outside of the rocket, flying through rain might not be a good idea. Like I said, Soyuz has flown through blizzards and rain. I mean, it flies through almost everything. They just don't care. Soyuz is like the honey badger of spaceflight. Falcon 9, the big thing is most rain clouds also can be associated with thunder, especially in Florida, and lightning, especially in Florida. That is an even bigger concern. So you don't want to launch the rocket when there's lightning because it can the carbon entrailed in the exhaust makes a perfect lightning rod. So as the rocket lifts off, it basically leaves a trail of carbon that reconnects to the ground and makes for a wonderful conductor for lightning. And so to avoid lightning strikes, they have like a 10-mile rule, 16 kilometers, where they don't want any lightning within that a 10-mile radius. And so they do that just to make sure that they, out of an abundance of caution. So hopefully that answers your question. Kitty Donahue, 62 months of membership. Thank you so much. You also must be near the top of the membership train there. That's incredible. Thank you so much. This is from John Ulrich. What if they used cryogenic RP1 as a solid propellant? Thoughts? How would you move it through the rocket engine? You don't want to use if you a solid rocket booster by design is just very simple. It's just a canister. You end up with pretty low pressure or low ISP, low specific impulse. Well, kind of because it's throwing out fairly heavy solid chunks as opposed to lightweight, hydrogen or something. But a lot of the way that the performance of an engine increases is by increasing the pressure inside the chamber. And in order to do that, you have to have pumps. And if you have pumps, you can't have solid propellants, right? So, and I don't think RP1 might be a substance where when it goes into a solid, it actually expands too. So that'd be actually really bad as far as energy density. So it's probably mostly a practicality thing of how do you pump it, and wouldn't be a good choice as a solid because I think it gets really sludgy too. Like I think there's a big state where it's just like kind of mucky, and before it turns completely solid. But hopefully that answers that. What if they used a nuke as fuel? Well, that's the Orion, not the Orion capsule that we all know and love. But the Orion project was this idea to basically just use nukes, like literally light a bomb, and it like blasts off and just keeps dropping bombs and has like this. I mean, it's the most like I literally would think about that when I was in, elementary school. Of like, what if a rocket just threw bombs out the back, and that's basically what that is. You can also use nuclear as a fuel though in other ways. The most common and the way that's been the most tested and totally ready to go basically is nuclear thermal. So you can basically just use a reactor as your, heat is energy, energy is heat. Heat is energy. And so if you have the heat of a reactor core and you're flowing hydrogen through it, you can make that hydrogen turn into steam, get really high pressures built up, in the chamber, and then have it expel out a nozzle just like a regular rocket engine. So instead of a chemical reaction to combust the propellant, you can just literally warm it up enough to, like a steam engine. It's basically a steam engine in space is how that works. And there are talks of us reworking nuclear thermal generated, not RTGs, thermonuclear. There we go. Reacted. Wait, how do you say that? Thermonuclear propulsion. There's a better word for it, but I'm blanking right now. Discord. But yeah, so yes, nukes as a fuel is a possibility, and there's also thermonuclear electric propulsion, where you basically would use a reactor to just power like a xenon gas or an ion thruster or something like that. Let's see here. This is from Andy Burns. Yeah, we talked about this a good amount yesterday. The Australians are trying to launch rockets. How full is the airspace if they are coming out of the southern hemisphere? How full is the airspace if they are coming out of the southern hemisphere? Well, I think generally the southern airspace is a lot less busy than where this rocket's flying. I mean, this is one of the busiest air corridors in the world, I think. Literally, the eastern coast of the United States is like crazy, right? Europe's obviously also very crazy for flights. So I don't think flying through Australia, flying out of Australian airspace is too much. But I'm a little bit confused. If they're coming out of the southern hemisphere, how full is the airspace if they're coming out of the southern hemisphere? Or are we talking orbital airspace? Or how busy is the orbital shell? Like, is there a lot of spacecraft they have to contend with, once in orbit, launching from the southern hemisphere? Well, don't forget, just because you launch from the southern hemisphere, let's say you're launching at a 50-degree latitude. Latitude. If you're at 50 degrees south and you're launching due east, you'll end up on a 45-ish degree angle on an inclination, and you're on the next orbit, like next time around, halfway through your orbit, you'll be at 50 degrees north latitude. So any rocket that launches from here ends up in the southern hemisphere. Any rocket that launches in the southern hemisphere ends up in the northern hemisphere, unless you're on an equatorial orbit where you're perfectly orbiting just the equator. That's the only exception. But otherwise, any inclination, even a 1 degree inclination, is technically flying through the northern hemisphere and then the southern hemisphere on every orbit. Every 45 minutes, it's going between the two hemispheres. So hopefully that answers that question. Can't wait to light this candle. Agreed, Drake or Drock Richards. I am ready. T-minus 25 minutes. We're getting close. I really hope it goes off today. That'd be awesome. And thank you so much for your 4 months of support. You are awesome. Steve Muncie, what are the chances we might see a crew launch from Texas? We already do. Blue Origin. Yeah, New Shepard launches from Texas. Not to orbit, of course. It is suborbital. But we do see crew launches from Texas to space, only for about 4 minutes at a time. But yeah, that's I'm assuming you're more wondering if we'll ever see Starship crewed launches from Texas. I definitely think they want to. Like I was just talking about earlier, I do want to see Starship have some kind of abort system, some kind of capsule on top of the whole rocket or something that makes it, I don't know. I'm just leery about having a vehicle of that kind of complication with no secondary abort or no secondary capsule or some kind, to be able to pull the crew away in case of an emergency. One might argue, Falcon 9 though has been flying unbelievably reliable. That maybe the crew, statistically at this point, would be just as safe flying on that as the car that drove them to the launch pad. I mean, it's pretty crazy. They haven't had a catastrophic failure. Let me think about this. Where a payload didn't get to orbit. They've lost a couple of boosters from like an engine shutdown. But I think the last time, and besides Amos 6, which was on the launch pad. I mean, you kind of have to factor that in. But before that, it was CRS-7, and that was 2016? 2015? 2015? I mean, it's been a long time, and they've flown like 500 times since then. I mean, just statistically, the odds are getting pretty darn good. I don't know if they're good enough to warrant not considering an abort system. I don't think that. I think that's always a good thing. But Starship, it's a little bit different beast. Zev wants to say, okay, question. I recognize why a launch to the ISS is an instantaneous window, so any hold is a scrub. But why do they scrub for the day? Can't they just hold for 90 minutes and catch the ISS on the next orbit? No. So, good question. The problem is the Earth is spinning. So actually, let's pretend that this is not. This would be a 90-degree inclination orbit. This would be a polar orbit. But let's pretend that the International Space Station, or the spacecraft you're trying to rendezvous with, is just this bar, right? The Earth spins, once every 24 hours. So if this takes 90 minutes to orbit, in 90 minutes, the launch pad's over here. Your inclination is way off. So that's what's happening here. Is right now we're basically 23 minutes away from Florida being lined up with the orbit as the Earth is rotating towards that inclination. So towards that orbit. Now again, in real life, this orbit would be about 51.6 degrees northeast, but that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for the orbit to cross. Now 90 minutes from now, that orbit's going to be over here. So they have to wait basically 24 hours. If you do it in 12 hours, here's the funny thing. In 12 hours, it'll be coming the opposite way. It'll be coming down 51.6 degrees down the coast this way on a descending node, that's called. So that's the back side of the orbit, right? Now the problem is if they launched on the descending node, they'd fly right through the Bahamas. So they can't do that yet. I mean, they're starting to do things like that where they're landing in the Bahamas and things like that. But they aren't able to do that full flight corridor yet. That'd be awesome though. That could be an option someday. Would be able to just fly on the southern trajectory on the descending node. But yeah, for now it's the orbit an orbit like that only passes us twice a day. So once on the ascending and once on the descending node. Hope that makes sense. Kerbal Space Program again would be a recommended if you play that a lot and understand orbital rendezvous and stuff, and especially rendezvous at an inclination. If you were on the equator and this was an equatorial launch, then yeah, you could literally rendezvous with it probably every 90 minutes. But that's not the case here. Yeah. Arcanus, what am I most excited about in the next 24 months? I think Artemis 2 is way up there for me. Really, I mean, we're seeing video of it right now. Really excited about that. To see humans go out to the moon again for the first time since 1972. How can you not be excited about that? That's awesome. Can't wait for that. That's like, yeah, I'm all in on that. That's going to be super, super fun. I think in the next 24 months, I really hope you'll see a reused Starship would be awesome. I also think within 24 months we should see Blue Moon. I think we'll see the Mark 1 Blue Moon hopefully land on the moon, which would be awesome because it's just a good sign of progress towards humans getting back to the moon in a sustainable manner. I need to say in a sustainable manner because it's way different than how we did things for the Apollo program. Yeah. Rise Jones, thank you for saying hi. I appreciate that. I am doing well. I love summer always makes me very happy. I try to spend a lot more time outdoors, and I think that's really important to have just some fresh air. I think I walked 7 miles yesterday, and just need that. You just need that sometimes. All right, let's check in and make sure we're not missing anything.
Thank you very much, Daryl and Nick. And right now we're preparing.
Load complete.
And that was going to be the update, is that fueling continues to be occurring for the Falcon 9 rocket. As you take a look at it on your screen now, it is a 2-stage rocket that is 229 feet tall and getting ready for liftoff in just a little less than 20 minutes. And at launch, it produces more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust.
And rockets like Falcon 9 don't use all that thrust just to go straight up. Early in flight, Falcon 9 performs a gravity turn, a smooth pitch maneuver that tilts the rocket sideways to build up horizontal velocity. You may hear this call at about 10 seconds into launch as the vehicle is pitching downrange. Once the first stage completes its portion of the mission, it shuts down and separates.
A stage rocket like Falcon 9 sheds the booster to eliminate weight and uncover the Merlin vacuum engine on stage 2. To reach orbit, the vehicle needs to go fast, hitting an orbital velocity of about 28,000 kilometers an hour just to keep from falling back to Earth due to gravity. That's fast enough to lap the Earth in about 90 minutes.
And as we mentioned earlier, after stage separation, today's booster will be landing at Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, returning to Earth for its 3rd time. The second stage takes over from there, powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, also known as...
All right, we've seen this stuff. Let's answer a few more questions, and this one makes me happy. Slower Thinker says, the future doesn't involve cleaning the outside of the rocket. My mother would not be happy with all those grubby black marks. So that's funny. They looked into trying to clean it when they, the first time they landed a booster. They're like, wow, this thing is like really dark, and what do we do now? All these soot marks and stuff. And they basically found out it's actually kind of hard to clean it, but they also found out that it doesn't really decrease performance. So, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, so they say. So they basically just let it get all sooty and dark like that, and it just kind of becomes almost like bragging rights. The darker and more sooty the booster is, the more times it's flown. And they're getting up to, what is it? Is it 20 times now? Almost 20 times? I've lost track. I've completely lost track. But I think the life leader is right around 20. Is it 19 or 20? Or did they break 20 and is that 23 or something? I already forgot. It's crazy. It's absolutely wild. People were thinking like 10 would be absolutely impossible. Well, first they thought, landing and reflying would not even be worth it or barely possible. But now, yeah. The height difference between Falcon and Starship towers is pretty insane. Yes, it's wild when you see far away shots of 39A and the tower that supported the space shuttle, and then you see the Starship tower next to it. It's absolutely wild. And the big thing too is the tower for Starship, though. The orbital launch mount is also quite elevated, so the tower needs to be also. It looks a lot taller because Starship's tall, 120 meters or so tall, but it's also sitting 30 meters or so off the ground. So the tower needs to be that much taller. Roughly about 140 meters is how tall the tower is now. But yeah, it is crazy when you see them in the same shot. And I think we all know we know that Starship is a bigger rocket than Falcon 9. But to actually see it like that on the same screen where you're seeing side by side like that, it can be pretty shocking. Yeah. Let's see here. Frank from Disney. Cool. Waiting over here in Orlando, just 50 miles away. I love stepping out my front door and watching the human progress firsthand. That is
still our watch item. We are seeing some development in the area, so this is going to come down to a matter of time. We're going to keep an eye on it and continue marching towards T0, and we'll see if we manage to thread the clouds today.
Okay, Dragon copies. We've got a healthy rocket, healthy Dragon. Weather is continuing to develop. We'll keep going until we can.
And great communications there between the team on the ground and with Crew-11 on board. And that's exactly what we're keeping an eye on, is not only the tanking of the rocket and that procedures, but also today's weather. And you heard that update right there. So to continue with the updates and kind of bring us up to speed on what's been going on, let's toss it to our teammate and Ronnie.
Thanks so much, Joseph. I can give you a little bit more color than we just heard, but obviously the important things we've heard are that we are still on track for an on-time liftoff today, but we're monitoring lots of different factors as we get closer to liftoff. If everything goes as expected, this is also going to be our last landing at LZ-1 today. So lots of different launch pads, landing sites, staging areas, lots of things in play. But the best news is that both Dragon and Falcon 9 continue to be healthy. You heard us wrap up Stage 2 RP1 loading just after T-minus 20 minutes, and Stage 2 liquid oxygen will begin here at about, or has begun already, excuse me. We've also heard that call out that the launch escape system is armed. Of course, the launch escape system, which we discussed in more detail yesterday, is designed to propel Dragon away from Falcon 9 in the unlikely event of an emergency during launch. We've also heard from the Eastern Range, which is monitoring keep-out zones among other key flight requirements today. They're continuing to report no issues, and they are go to support today's launch, weather depending. So again, as you just heard, weather is a watch item. We're now tracking a 60% chance of violation at our target liftoff time, with isolated showers in the staging area and some clouds building right over the launch pad. You are actually seeing them continue to grow on your screen right now. For now, though, we are go for the 6th mission of Dragon Endeavour, and I want to hand it back over to Sandra for a status update from Houston. Sandra?
Thanks, Ronnie. Back here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, teams are continuing to work around the clock to monitor activities aboard the orbital outpost. Leading the team inside the room today is NASA Flight Director Anthony Varia. The team in Mission Control Houston, the team in Hawthorne, and the astronauts aboard the space station will track the autonomous docking of Dragon Endeavour when they enter joint operations. This will happen when the spacecraft enters the approach ellipsoid, which is the invisible boundary, stretching 4 by 2 by 2 kilometers that helps us monitor all arriving and departing spacecraft. It's essentially the neighborhood of the International Space Station. Once docked, crew members in both Dragon and aboard the International Space Station will perform a series of leak checks, then work to open the spacecraft's hatch for Crew-11 to float into the space station and begin their stay. We anticipate that the hatch will be opened about an hour and a half after docking occurs, and when they enter the orbital outpost, Crew-11 will be greeted by the rest of their Expedition 73 crew and will come together for some opening remarks. For now, that's going to be all for us today here in Mission Control as the anticipation builds for launch in less than 13 minutes now. So how's it looking on the Space Coast, Daryl?
Well, Sandra, we wish it was looking better. We've just had a downgrade in the weather forecast from 60% go to only 40% go. The launch weather officer informing us that conditions are ripe, and we have even seen the development of cumulus clouds in the area, some that could trigger lightning if a rocket went through them. So this is a very high watch item at this moment, Nick.
Yeah, they're watching it to the, everybody is focused on crew safety at this point, making sure that we make the right call. But there's a chance, and I'll stay positive.
And you've been positive. I appreciate that about you. You've done that throughout the broadcast. Here's a look from our helicopter flying over the spaceport right now. And this is the formation of the clouds that is a concern because it is so humid out right now. And we've got a sea breeze that is flowing over the warm land. It is just creating this convection around the spaceport. In fact, we are also expecting to go into a Phase 1 lightning alert, which I hate to say it, but just before we scrubbed yesterday, Dick, that Phase 1 lightning alert went into effect. So things are starting to stack up against us weather-wise. But nonetheless, it's at this point, because this is a fully automated fueling sequence, it behooves us to just continue to march to see if anything might just clear at the end.
Yeah, so there's been nothing that happened up to this point to stop the countdown. So proceed to T-0.
I do love that last shot of the rocket where it's kind of getting hit by sunlight, but you see the dramatic clouds in the background. It's just really pretty lighting. It would have been a beautiful shot if it happened to take off at that point with that lighting. I mean, that would have been gorgeous photos for all the people out there. Let's keep answering a few more questions. Well,
to see some type of positivity in that moment, but it's certainly something that all eyes are on around the Space Coast to see if this rocket is going to go.
Fun little fact down there, right where you see that the tallest building kind of near the bottom of the screen, the black one, that's around there is where they actually suit up. So that's there's a bridge there that goes over to the Cape. That's technically the Space Force station there on the other side of the water. Towards us, kind of off behind the back of the camera operator here is the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. So if you've ever visited there, that's where you are. And we're right on top of the road, basically, that takes you out to the launch pad from...
To our family, friends, all who support us at SpaceX, NASA, JAXA, Roscosmos, thank you. Spasiba, arigato gozaimasu. For this freedom to explore, resilience to endure, may grace fly alongside this endeavor.
Crew Crew-11, from all of us on the ground, we've enjoyed working with you in preparation for your mission. We look forward to continuing to do so in flight. Good luck. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and Zena, you know, hitting the tone I would expect her to do. She is the consummate professional. Big message of thank you.
Yeah. The gratitude, the team focus, freedom, resilience, these are big themes. These are things that are important to her, and some great words from her. Let's send it now back out to our commentary team for the final minutes of Countdown, Joseph and Simon.
Okay, final minutes here while they're kind of going back out. We got the rocket on in the shot there. Let me answer. I have a few thank yous. I got Judy. Thank you so much for your super chat. Really appreciate that. Andy Burns, thank you so much. Also for a very generous donation as well. And Daniel, good to hear you from you, Daniel. Hey, Tim, hope you've been well. Ready for the 2026 Astro Awards. I think we're still trying to figure out and nail down the date for that. We are waiting for... we're trying to line up 2 venues this year so we can actually have like an exhibit space, a big exhibit space, not just a little tiny room. So we'll actually have a lot of exhibitors coming, and we have a lot of companies trying to line up and get in there so you can actually see some cool hardware and things like that too. So hoping the Astro Awards, I think we're looking at the 3rd week of January, weekend in January, in Austin, Texas. So mark it in your calendars now, or at least put it, like, pencil it in. We'll have announcements soon, but yeah, can't wait. Astro Awards last year and the year before. Last year was awesome. The year before was really stressful for me, so it wasn't as fun. Last year was just a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed myself last year. And I think from everyone I heard, it was also awesome. So hope you guys can make it. And this is from Loutro. Go SpaceX, go Dragon, go Crew-11. Love the content. Thank you so much. By the way, yes, thank you so much, Phoenix. You're right. We looked in Discord here. Upik reminded me that we've seen B1067 as the life leader right now at 29 flights. Like, it got to the point, once it crossed 20, I think it just got to the point where it just went into absurd land, and I just forgot about it. Like, it's just too hard to, it's 29 times a single booster has flown. Yeah, that's actually wild. So crazy times. And I also think this would be a good, I'll wait for a little bit more opportune moment, but there is one thing that I forgot to do today, or yesterday, I haven't done it yet today, and maybe this is the reason, but we do need to do a pointy end up flaming down tech, and I am a certified rocket orientation specialist. So from this angle, forget the Starship launch pad that's photobombing the Dragon capsule there. We do have a good shot of the pointy end, though, and it looks like it's got an extra weird point to it. Okay, here we go. They're going to start retracting there, but this is a great shot for the pointy end up flaming down.
We're looking ahead to the call out that RP1 load is complete, which just occurred a moment ago, and again prevents that thermal shock. You got to stretch before you can start running. And RP1 is densified kerosene or rocket fuel that will propel the crew into orbit. And all of that RP1 is now about to be fully loaded into the rocket, since we previously heard that the second stage is completed, or about to be completed here in just a couple moments. And then while we're still loading liquid oxygen on that first stage and second stages. This is the oxidation.
Soon they'll do the recline of the Strongback, so they'll actually let go of the little claw that you kind of see in the shot here and recline to 3 degrees the Strongback. But anyway, yeah, we do have pointy end up, flaming end down is confirmed. Perfect shot for that. Pointy end up, flaming end down. They did get the rocket out there, the right orientation. Very good sign. So they are not pulling a Joe Barnard, and they don't have the flaming end up, which I think is a very good sign of things to come. But the skies and the weather, it is weird. You can see a really distinct shadow there where a cloud is looming overhead. The rocket's in perfect sunlight, but you can see that cloud just ready to scrub.
In the countdown, the transporter erector, or TE, will begin to retract from Falcon 9. That is the large truss structure you see there standing next to the rocket. It's hinged at the base and connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage. First, the clamps around the second stage will begin to open.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for Strongback Retract.
And we're hearing good callouts.
Dragon is in, configure 4, terminal count.
And we're continuing to hear great callouts over the nets. Then the TE will begin to pivot back, slowly swinging away from the rocket, and it will reach full recline in just about a minute.
Strongback retract has started.
And we are just beginning that Strongback retraction process. It's called the Strongback. It's also called the TE or transport director. Same structure, different name. The TE does a lot more than just lean. It rolls Falcon 9 out to the pad, raises it vertical, and stays connected through the final seconds. It provides fuel, power, telemetry, and command connections between ground systems and the rocket.
Everyone's saying your Toy Story voice, the claw. This is a good question here from Cherries Rosen. Hi, what is in the fuel propellant? So they use liquid oxygen, so that's the oxidizer. And of course, in space, there's no air, so you can't use an air-breathing engine, so you have to bring your own oxygen. So a good amount of this rocket is using just liquid oxygen, is a lot of the weight. And RP1, or which is basically a kerosene. It's actually a more refined version of the same fuel that we put in jets. So basically, Jet A fuel, continue to refine it even further, it becomes RP1, so rocket propellant 1. So it's so we call that combination Kerolox. So kerosene and liquid oxygen, otherwise known as Kerolox. Hope that answers the question. And the liquid oxygen is what you see that's so cold because it's cryogenic. In order to take oxygen and make it cold enough to become a liquid, it becomes really, really cold, like minus 167 degrees Celsius. And so it's sitting in these tanks. These tanks don't have a huge amount of insulation or anything. So that's why you see when the humidity and the warm air comes in contact with that cold skin, because right on the other side of that, thin aluminum skin like that, then yeah, you're seeing that humid air come in contact with that really, really, really cold metal surface. If you went up and touched your hand on it, it would probably likely freeze almost to it, because it's so cold. But yeah, we're looking good here. I mean, they're going for it, but who knows if it's actually going to happen today. I'm basically going to shut up here at about T-minus 1 minute and just right before T-minus 1 minute listen in case there's a hold called. But I just wanted to thank you guys for watching with me. I know I don't stream, especially in the summer. I feel like I'm running around so much. I don't always get a chance to stream, but I still love streaming, things like this, and it's good to see you all, everybody here. I do hope you liked my last video that I put out about, what if you could yeet Starship and Falcon 9 and Electron and all these rockets, running the numbers on using a yeet system to throw it. If you haven't watched it, we get really deep and really nerdy, so give that a watch because it's ridiculous and fun. So thank you for watching. Thanks for all the support. I'm going to listen in now because we're getting close to where we might hear some call-outs.
Sure that transition to the final countdown is smooth and that all flight
crossed.
computers on board are in sync.
Ground gas closeouts, expect loud venting.
Configured for launch, and there's the closeouts we've been talking about and the venting that will be shortly followed. One minute and 10 seconds to liftoff of NASA SpaceX Crew-11.
FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
Dragon is in countdown.
Flight computers switching to countdown mode now.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
Oh, wow.
SpaceX, Dragon, go for launch.
Holy cow. My clock's about 3 seconds ahead, so I'm fixing that.
30 seconds.
Wow. All right, go for launch. Go Crew-11. Go NASA, go SpaceX, go Dragon, go JAXA, go Roscosmos. Let's go.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Ignition's full power and liftoff. Go Falcon, go NASA, go Crew-11.
Together we rise as NASA's SpaceX Crew-11 heads up to the International Space Station.
Vehicles pitching down range.
1.7 million pounds of
Stage 1
thrust.
propulsion is nominal.
Propelling Falcon 9 as the vehicle pitching down range and making its way up the East Coast. and will soon join Expedition 73 aboard the orbiting laboratory. So far, getting good callouts on that first stage performance.
Oh, what a shot. But come on. Oh, listen.
We are now T plus 35 seconds into the Crew-11 mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9. The Falcon 9 engines
Stage 1 throttle down.
Are throttling down to help
Power and telemetry are nominal.
to help pass through the period of max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle during ascent.
Max Q.
We just had max Q right there.
Look at that little hole in the clouds. That's probably the reason they're able to launch, is they have just a big enough area there to just avoid flying directly through clouds and around the weather systems.
Into what is a little bit more less than a 9-minute flight uphill as Dragon continuing.
Stage 1 Bravo.
Copy. 1 Bravo.
Zena sounds happy.
And that 1 Bravo, again, that's the abort zone, that last abort zone for stage 1 if necessary. The crew already pulling over 2 Gs. And next, we're going to have a couple of events happen in rapid succession. We'll be getting ready for the second stage to warm up and have this second stage MVAC chill. And then we'll also have MECA, or main engine cutoff, where the 9 engines on the first stage will cut off ahead of the first and second stages. Will then be separating from one another. And then the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite and continue to carry Crew-11 to orbit, while the first stage begins its journey back to Earth, as we're now 1 minute and 56 seconds into today's flight.
The 9 Merlin engines are starting to throttle down and are standing by for MECA, or main engine cutoff.
MVAC chill has started.
And we just heard that call out for MVAC chill. And coming up in under like 20 seconds, we have 5 events happening back to back. MECO,
Stage 1 throttle down.
stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES1, and the start of boost back burn. It's going to be pretty quick, so keep a close eye on the action and the mission event
Main engine cutoff.
tracker at the bottom of your screen.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage 2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed.
Alpha.
MVAC ignition.
And there you see stage 1 pulling away, ignition of the lone Merlin vacuum engine for stage 2. And again, those happening in quick succession as we continue to get great views of that Florida coastline and the eastern seaboard there, as Crew-11 continuing its path to orbit, now approaching 3 minutes into today's flight. Still a little ways to go, about 6 minutes left, as they continue to climb their way up and eventually track down the International Space Station. And there, great see, you see the Merlin vacuum engine, the second stage on the right-hand side, and great views of the first stage that's making its return to Earth on the left. About 5.5 minutes of powered flight remaining as we continue to monitor the progress of both vehicles, stage 2 and Crew-11, making the climb uphill, and stage 1 looking to land again at landing zone 1, the last landing at that location for this Falcon 9 booster.
Look at all the ice coming off the booster. That's a cool shot.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Dragon copy.
We're continuing to hear great callouts over the nets that both Dragon and Falcon are right on track to orbit. So the first stage booster is now on its way to landing zone 1, and we just saw those grid fins open up on the left-hand side of your screen.
That's just ice.
The first stage has a couple of events ahead of its landing. Stage 1 will start its entry burn, which will be the second of 3 burns to return the booster a few miles from its launch site at landing zone 1. During this entry burn, Falcon 9 will use its engines to pump the brakes to slow the vehicle down before it reaches the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And if
more ice, not a UFO on the left screen.
Shield that is designed to protect the engines and the vehicle from all that combined thermal and aerodynamic loading during max entry Q, which is the moment of max stress on the vehicle during entry. And that will be followed by a landing burn. And this burn will last for about...
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Continuing to hear good callouts.
Great performance calls continue as we're now 5 minutes into today's flight. Still about 8.5 to go. A little bit more than that as the second stage continuing to perform nominally on the right-hand side. 2,400 meters per second. Crew-11 cruising into the upper echelons of the Earth's atmosphere while we continue to monitor the second stage on that left-hand side, and we'll also get continued guidance and navigation call-outs from the control officers here in SpaceX. Dragon is pointed in the right direction and continuing its flight. And again, that second stage going to continue firing until close to that 9-minute mark into flight and accelerating Dragon to more than 17,000 miles per hour and placing the crew in orbit. And you'll hear good orbital insertion would be that call out. There's the single Merlin vacuum engine that can produce over 220,000
SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
pounds of thrust on that nominal trajectory you're hearing right now. And into the vacuum of space. Now approaching 6 minutes into today's flight, about 2 minutes and 40 plus seconds remaining.
Here's my favorite
We are
part.
coming up on the entry burn, which is just under 30 seconds from now. And so you'll see the first stage's center Merlin engine reignite as it comes back down to Earth. And after that, we will be approaching.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there is the beginning of entry burn right there. Again, this is the second of 3 burns to return the booster to landing zone 1.
Burn shutdown.
The last time they'll land at landing
Just
zone
made
1.
it through entry burn.
And you're getting some great views, too, on that Stage 1's return to the Florida coastline. Again, landing at landing zone 1. While on the right-hand side, the second stage. And that Merlin vacuum engine continuing to propel Crew-11.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Into orbit. And
Dragon copies.
And again, great. And now with about 2 minutes left of powered flight remaining, still receiving those great calls from the crew on the ground, and we're getting those relays from Crew-11 Commander Zena Cardman.
Stage 1 transonic.
We are now very quickly approaching the start of our landing burn, where 3 engines, engines 1, 5, and 9, will relight to help slow the vehicle down just before it touches down on landing zone 1. We should hopefully have some great tracking shots of that.
Stage 1 landing burn. Stage 2 FTS is saved. Stage 1
From the helicopter. Let's go.
Normal return there of the Stage 1 booster.
Final planned landing at LV1.
Another
So a successful landing of the first stage booster as we
Totally
continue
normal.
to follow along with a little less now than 1 minute of powered flight of the second stage. And you'll hear the call out SECO, or second engine cutoff.
I
Great
do
view
love
there,
it.
glowing orange.
Right when the engine shut down, when you see the little flash of T-tab there at the end, you heard a boom, and I don't think I'm pretty sure that just happened to be the sonic boom lining up with the video. But here we go. They're getting close here, and someone asked, how many G's are they feeling? Right now, they're experiencing the highest.
Seconds remaining of powered flight. And
If I remember right, it's just below 4G. I think they're experiencing about 3.8.
Copy, Shannon.
And there's the great call out for Shannon we talked about earlier, that last abort zone, if necessary, where they can land off the coast of Shannon, Ireland.
SECO.
There we just heard that good call out for SECO, or second engine cutoff.
Sweet. They're in orbit.
Coming up next will be stage separation.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
And that's the great call you want to hear.
Launch escape system disarmed.
A good look inside the trunk there as you're looking for that separation, but you wanted to hear that nominal orbital insertion as Crew-11 now has reached microgravity.
So now we'll continue to coast for a little bit after SECO to allow rates and motion from the burn to settle.
I hate to say it. I gotta call out. I hate the word microgravity. I don't think we should use it. We on suborbital launches, because there's still motions and things like that often. But there we go. Hang on. They're in orbit. I'll go on.
As
I'll
you see
continue my rant
Dragon
later.
coast into its orbit.
And a wonderful view there is Dragon Endeavour with Crew-11 on board. Safe.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And safe and...
Dragon, Chief Engineer on Dragon to ground. Zena, Mike, Kimiya, Oleg, welcome to orbit. On behalf of the entire Falcon team, we thank you for flying with Falcon today and wish you a great mission. Dragon will take you from here. Over to Launch Director for a few words.
On behalf of the launch team, it's been an absolute honor working with you towards launch today. We wish you well on the rest of your mission, and we will be awaiting your safe return. Godspeed Endeavour, Godspeed Crew-11, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
SpaceX Dragon, I have no emotion but joy right now. That was absolutely transcendent. Ride of a lifetime. Thank you. This has been an incredible honor. And it's my privilege now to pass us along to Mike for some additional words.
Boy, it's great to be back in orbit again. Thank you to SpaceX and NASA to get us here. What a ride. And Zena and Oleg, let me be the second to welcome you to your first orbit around beautiful planet Earth. Kimiya-san, okayeri nasai, welcome back. And to the ISS Expedition 73 team, the crew on board and our friends in MCC, we're on our way. Over to you, Kimiya-san.
Okay, thank you very much for everything. スパシバワンボイショーへありがとうございます。日本の皆さん、私も、10年ぶりに宇宙に帰ってきました。ISS でしっかりと任務を果たして、一等星のように輝いて、日本の素晴らしいところを世界中の人に知っていただきたいと思います。ありがとうございます。Я передаю Oleg-сан, пожалуйста.
Спасибо, Kimiya-san. Thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu. And спасибо всем. I'd like for the beginning to say thank you very much, Roscosmos, SpaceX, and NASA for this unique opportunity to be here with my great crew. Дорогие друзья, находясь на космическом корабле и облетая нашу родную планету, я испытываю неописуемое счастье и восторг. Хочу выразить слова благодарности всей нашей стране, Соединенным Штатам Америки и России за эту уникальную возможность, а также Роскосмосу. Хочу выразить слова благодарности своей школе, в которой я учился, номер 103 в городе Челябинске. Выразить благодарность Краснодарскому высшему военному авиационному училищу летчиков и 22-му гвардейскому истребительному авиационному полку, а также сотрудникам Центра подготовки космонавтов, кто искренне верил и болел за эту идею отправить меня в космос. Обещаю выполнить все поставленные передо мной задачи на отлично. Ура!
Crew-11, we copy all of your words. We are very excited for you to have reached orbit, and we will now proceed with getting you to the International Space Station. You have approximately 3 minutes left in this ground station pass if you'd like to introduce your zero-G indicator.
Let's see it.
Copy all, Tremaine. Thank you so much. We'll get out our fifth crew member here in just a moment. This zero-G indicator honors a shared memory with our lead trainer, Paul Weiss. For all the mentors and team members who got us here through sacrifice of time and dedication, I hope we made you proud today. Thank you so much.
We don't get to see it. I want to see it.
Some great words there from all 4 members of Crew-11 and the astronauts and cosmonauts, all that cadre. They're well on their way to the final destination, which they have about a 16-hour ride to do so, and the phasing to ultimately the International Space Station, where they will turn that group into a full group of 11. So only fitting for Crew-11.
To summarize where we are with vehicle activation, we've had nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts. We're currently opening the nose cone.
We have just gotten confirmation that nose cone...
copies all. And we'll be ready for visors open with ECOS activation complete.
We just had great comms that nose cone deploy is underway. The 6 hooks that hold the nose cone in place during the launch and ascent portions have to retract, and then the nose cone will be able to start to swing open and deploy. This uncovers a number of critical systems for the flight up to the space station, including the forward bulkhead thrusters and the docking hatch. And that call from the core here in Hawthorne indicating that we had good checkouts of the 12 Draco thrusters around the service section. 4 to go after we get the nose cone open and the ECLIS, the environmental control and life support system, activated inside Dragon. Soon the crew will be able to get their visors open and get out of their suits and settle in for their ride to the space station.
Cool. Well, that's great. I think I'll answer a few more questions and then wrap it up. I didn't even think I'd be able to stream today. I'm leaving town here shortly, so let me go ahead and answer a few more of these questions for you guys. And again, thank you for watching with me. It always means a lot. Good to see you all here. Let me do a quick little shout out. We did, like I said yesterday, we do have $25 off of our new rockets. So any of our Falcon 9 model rockets, if you wanted to have one of your own metal Falcon 9 model rockets at 1/100 scale with grid fins and everything, you can get those over at everydayastronaut.com/shop, as well as our brand new Mercury Redstone, Mercury Atlas rockets that are all to the same scale. All these rockets are to the same scale. The Falcon 9, just the upper stage is almost the size of the Mercury Atlas that took John Glenn into orbit. So we have all of our rockets to the same scale. Look at the Mercury compared to Falcon 9. Mercury Redstone compared. I mean, that's just the upper stage. Look at, I love seeing these to the same scale. So we have $25 off of our rockets today. everydayastronaut.com/shop. Use coupon code LAUNCHDAY, all one word, all lowercase. Also, we do have new versions, new colorways of the orbital shirt. Today, this crew member, all 4 of them, Crew-11, went orbital. We have little cheat codes on how fast they're going in low Earth orbit and all the other orbits. But you've seen the black one for a while now. I've secretly had these other 2 colorways for like a year. We finally do have them in the shop. So if you want to get that, check those out as well. And new youth tees as well. We have I think we have 2 new youth tees actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, people have been asking, yeah, we finally have a rocket orientation tee, and we still have a few other youth tees. So if you have kids, people have been asking for more kids shirts. Now we have the orbital shirt and the pointy end up, flaming end down rocket orientation specialist shirt. So if you want to help support what I do, head on over to everydayastronaut.com/shop. Shop around. It really helps out a lot and funds all the crazy things we do here and down in Texas and things like that. So again, $25 off of our model rockets today using coupon code LAUNCHDAY. All one word, all lowercase. So thank you, everybody. Let me answer a few more questions and then get on the road. Let's answer this question. What would happen if lightning hit it? That happened to Apollo 12. It took out a bunch of stuff. It wasn't great, and they had to reset the signal conditioning equipment. But yeah, a lot of stuff got like frazzled basically. So yeah, definitely not good. You don't want to fly through lightning. Nothing good will happen from lightning strikes. We'll just put it that way. Thank you for the $10 donation from John M. Doesn't SpaceX use methane for engines? Not on Falcon 9. Nope, Falcon 9 still uses Kerlox. It always will use Kerlox. The Raptor engine is powered by methane. So Methalox is what's on Starship. And actually, we should probably. I feel like I never remember to show you guys this, and I feel like no one knows about them, but I wear them almost every day, and you don't get to see it because they're on my feet. But we do have socks that are of the different propellants. Our Hydrolox socks, Methalox, Kerolox, and Hydrolox, all representing the similar colors to the actual flames that come out of the rocket. So yeah, these are hilarious. So get those if you want some socks that are custom dyed, like they're hand dyed. They're ridiculous. Merch is actually really hard to make. Trying to find a company that can do I don't know. Oh, what was that? Hand.
Great call out right there.
Dragging top is all good news.
And that's what we were waiting for there, was that call up to crew.
Looking forward in the timeline, you have your first burn up on your forward view. That's the phase burn in approximately 25 minutes.
Cool. So that's just phasing to get lined up so they will start to eventually raise the orbits. So no methane in Falcon 9, methane only in Starship. Drac, really loved your last video, Tim. Thanks. Well, thank you so much for your super chat, and thank you for saying that. I love those kind of videos. I know maybe some of us veteran space people, those of us that are, frequent watchers of everything, of every Scott Manley video, of every NSF update and all these things. We probably know the questions of why you don't see like launch assist systems and yeeting rockets off the ground and using the chopsticks Oh my gosh, I just realized I actually had in my dream last night. Oh my gosh. That's bad. I dreamt that we were watching Flight 9 and that they did literally use the chopsticks as an assist system. And I'm sitting there going, no, don't do that. But I like videos where you run the numbers, because it's one thing to like answer it and say like, you know, it's not really worth it. And then someone will go, but how could it not be worth it? Like, it's free. You know, you can just use a catapult. It's right there. It's, you know, you can build up that energy over time using some diesel generators, or who cares? You know, like, it seems way more efficient. And then when you run the numbers, you're like, yeah, all this extra stuff for like a 3% gain. When 3% can be made up in other ways, that's a lot easier and less complicated and less risky than that. I like videos like that. And I know that, it might not always be for all of you veteran spaceflight, you know, aerospace enthusiasts, but I do like making videos like that. The next video will be one for all of us, though. It'll definitely be for the nerdy ones. It would have been perfect for today. I'm making a video about the range. What's the range? I actually am working directly with Space Force on this, so I'm going inside of the range, which is really weird, because the range is like a lot of things, and it kind of confuses me. Like, what is the range? You know, the range is weather. The range is clear of personnel, you know, traffic, marine and air traffic. It's also making sure the rocket's safe, and the mission directors. You have the range control officer, you have launch director, mission director, kind of trying to help, because even in my head, that stuff is confusing. I've been around this for 10 years now. You know, I've been listening and watching this stuff for 11 years now, actually. And the range is like, the range is clear, and who says that? What is that? Why are they scrubbing? What are the conditions? So I'm diving into that. It's a deep dive on the range, and it's actually with, it's actually with the people at the range in Vandenberg. So it's really cool, because I actually talked to like the people that literally push buttons, you know, if something goes wrong and stuff like that. So, who pushes the big red button? And that should be the title. Like, but sadly, that's going away because we have automatic flight termination system. But it's still really fascinating to see how that all works and kind of the decision-making processes. Let's see. What is the tinfoil like stuff on the second stage? So the tinfoil stuff, there is a thermal insulator that basically makes it so the heat, because don't forget the nozzle of this second stage of the vacuum Merlin is niobium, and it actually uses almost every form of cooling you can do. It's not really necessarily heat sink. I mean, there's inherently heat sink to it, but it radiates heat by being a thin metal that literally just radiates heat away. The upper, you know, the chamber is regeneratively cooled. It also has some film cooling where they use the exhaust from the gas generator. You kind of see this snail-looking thing that wraps around the nozzle and pumps what's cooler air or cooler gas into the nozzle. It's cooler than at least what's coming out of the combustion chamber, so it helps keep the nozzle from melting. Now, anyway, that heat is radiating in all directions. That's why it's glowing red. It's literally radiating heat out there. Even though there's no air, don't forget there's three forms of heat. There's radiation transfer, which is how we get heat from the sun. There's convection, which is the heat you feel in the air, and there's conduction, the heat you feel like when you physically touch something. So it's just radiating heat, but that could go back and warm up all of the turbopump machinery, and you have liquid oxygen inside the turbopumps that could boil off. And I think that's the biggest concern. I don't think it's necessarily about it going the other way. I don't think you're worried about cold stuff getting out there. I think it's more keeping the heat from the engine, specifically from the nozzle extension, from reaching the turbo machinery. So, yeah, hopefully that answers that question, to the best of my knowledge, at least. Javier, are current weather conditions fed into Falcon 9 computers so it's able to scrub itself? I don't think so. I think it's a manual scrub process. At least it is, like with some of the rockets we talked about at Vandenberg. It's a manual scrub process. The computer, I think there's an opportunity with Falcon 9 for the director to confirm go, basically. So if they don't do anything, I don't think the rocket launches, would be my guess. I think there still needs to be a person in the loop to confirm it's good to go. I don't think it would automatically go. I don't know, actually. That I'll try to get the answer on that, actually. That's a good question. Mitch, awesome. Good to hear from you. And I'm not at the press site. I'm in Iowa, so don't look for me too hard there. You will not find me, sadly. Very jealous, though. Looked like it would have been a really fun launch to watch. Questionable. It would have been stressful. I would have been like, I would have thought it was not going to go. Brett Little says, thank you for what you do. Here's some tacos and beer money. $50. Thank you so much, Brett. I really appreciate that. I will use that this weekend because, this weekend we planned it like 6 months ago. I tried to get together with my, elementary school friends even. Literally some of my best friends since second and first grade. We try to get together once a year. And this year we chose August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So we're getting together. We all fly from wherever we live and wherever we're at and pick a place. This weekend it's actually we're going to Chicago, close to me. Most of us are in the Midwest now, so it's not a big deal. But really excited. So I will actually I'll buy a round for my friends because it's going to be really fun to hang out with them, and I really appreciate that. That's very, very generous. Let's see. From Michael, how do they make sure they don't hit the second stage on their way back? On their way back. So the second stage deorbits itself. So once the stages, so they'll do a phasing burn and they'll actually accelerate the Dragon capsule to get it on a different orbit, like to get it higher up and closer to the International Space Station. Meanwhile, the second stage will actually turn around and it's going to slow itself down and deorbit. So it'll deorbit here in the next orbit, basically. And that way there's no chance of the second stage and first stage ever coming in contact again. Let's see here. NB3, what is your turnaround time between starting a video pre-production, filming video, editing, and releasing? I mean, I know people are going to think this sounds crazy, but when I do a short video, like last year, I think I was, when I was working on the moon video, I was putting out really short videos in between, and I feel like people didn't even notice them. Like I did videos about, what's the difference between, Starship version 1 and Starship version 2. I did one on the Navajo missile. The Navajo missile video, I thought was super fun. I produced that in about 2 days. I shot it in 1 day. Total from I guess I shot some of it down in Florida at the Navajo missile. So besides that, I also did some voiceover. I also did, B-roll and all that stuff. It was really about probably 72 hours, like 3 days worth of work. So I can produce videos really quickly. It's just that the videos that I choose to make most of the time just take forever. And I've tried to change that about myself. I don't get pleasure out of those quick little videos like that. They don't perform well either. I know that's stupid because I could probably, if I could do one every week like that, it'd probably financially work out better. I just don't get pleasure out of that. I feel like I burn through those topics. I don't put as much care into them. So I love diving into something that I'm unfamiliar with. And I love diving into a topic that takes a lot of research and takes a lot of effort for me to actually learn it and absorb it. And I really like topics where they're visually hard to grasp. That's why when I made the videos about the rocket propulsion, like how to power a rocket engine, why don't rocket engines melt, all that stuff, having the visual elements of stuff that's kind of hard to grasp is where I think my effort's best put. That's why also with the last video I did about the launch assist system, I spent a full month animating all the numbers. And I know that sounds like that's really stupid and a waste of time, but I'm not good at math and I need to see these numbers spelled out. When someone's talking about any number, especially if they're like, if you take this times this, it equals this, if they just say it, I will not comprehend it. If they say it and I see it, I can comprehend it. That's just me. And I know there's probably other people out there. And if you see things changing and going through the motions of how you calculate something, I learn a lot better. And again, I know that's not everybody. Probably a lot of people are probably like, why do you need it? That doesn't make sense. But for me, I want to make videos that I would want to watch, right? And so for that video, I could have had that video done in May, literally early May. If I didn't do all the, if it was just me reading the script and then doing, some simple, maybe including those 3D animations that I hired Casper Stanley for and Teen also did the Starship renders on. That could have been done really quickly. But for me, when it's number heavy like that, and then when you find out you make errors and have to fix all those numbers, when it's number heavy though, I think it's really important to show that. I think it's important to animate that. I think it's important to make it something that you can grasp from start to finish without needing prior knowledge. A lot of us have inherent prior knowledge. A lot of us watching this, we know this stuff. We watch this stuff. We care about this stuff. A lot of you are in the air, are studying aerospace engineering or in the aerospace, it's a large percentage of people actually are way more qualified to talk about this stuff than me, which is, always very, very humbling because I'm aware of my audience. absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, like, I love, because I'm learning this stuff from new, and because I'm always trying to like learn and grow my own vocabulary, my own knowledge base, my own understanding, I want to walk other people through that process. So videos for me take a lot longer, and yeah, that's just my rant there. So if you're ever wondering, the next video though, I think we'll have that one out hopefully in September. I know that seems like a pretty long turnaround time still, but there's dozens of hours of footage though that we're going through for this. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Let's see here. I'll answer two more from Cornell. Why does the tinfoil on the second stage, we're talking about that tinfoil wrapped around the Merlin, why does it pulse? So there's a couple things. There's venting going on to keep the tanks maintaining the proper pressure. There's also some RCS roll thrusters, because a single engine like this can't control roll. So if the rocket started to induce a tiny bit of roll, it would continue to do that without any correction. So you are seeing some RCS. They're just nitrogen cold gas thrusters that keep the rocket in the proper orientation. Anytime those fire, because it's in the, Scott Manley just did a video about this actually, how the gas from, when you're in space like that, technically the molecules are going everywhere. You're trying to direct them as much as possible opposite of, where you're trying to go. But in space, they inherently kind of go everywhere. So even though the thrusters have a nozzle and that directs flow, as soon as it gets out of that nozzle, they're still going to kind of go all over. And so you do have gas that hits the tinfoil and reacts against it, even though it's in space. Even though there's no air, those molecules are still spitting out there. You still have nitrogen literally shooting out. There's nothing to stop it from shooting out. That's the funny thing about in space and in a vacuum is if you have a gas that's spewing, shooting out at thousands of meters per second, when it hits something, it reacts against it, right? It's producing wind for a second, if you think about it, but just in a vacuum. So that's why there's different reactions and there's vents and different things that are going on that make it pulse. And let's see here. Andy Burns, you have felt a launch as near to the site as anyone can. How would you describe that feeling for the record? So actually, and the closest I've been to a launch, to be clear, actually was in Roscosmos, was actually for a Soyuz launch. We were 1.5 miles away, 2.5 kilometers. It was crazy. That is definitely close enough to go, is this too close? And I have a funny story about that. I probably I should take all my footage from that now that Dear Moon's all over and everything. I probably should take the footage that I shot from that and make like my secret trip to Russia, because I actually, went to Russia and went to the Cosmosphere and not Cosmosphere. The Baikonur Cosmodrome. There we go. Didn't go to Kansas. Well, I have been. But yeah, we went to Baikonur. Didn't tell anyone about it because it was before the announcement of Dear Moon. And my family and friends knew, obviously, but like I couldn't talk about it publicly. Went there, watched the Soyuz launch, watched Yusaku Maezawa fly to the International Space Station on Soyuz. And ironically, they tried to take us even closer. Someone pulled up in a van and said, "Do you want to get closer?" And even though I'm already like, this is kind of too close. I have footage of us literally driving past the rocket like 400 feet from the rocket. It's a crazy story. I should make a video about it because it is really funny, actually. It's just more than anything, it's crazy. But yeah, I should release that at some point. But the feeling of a rocket launch, I think Starship still takes the cake. Just because you're so close. You're about where I'm standing is about 8 kilometers. You can get even a little closer, more like 4 miles is where some people can be, and people even at Starbase are like 2.5 miles, but they're now inside of a blast-proof building. But yeah, the feeling is it's very low rumbling. So it's almost like if a really big truck. Like if you're right next to the highway and a semi drove by, like the feeling of and you're on a bridge and you just feel like you can feel that energy of that truck, that low rumble. But the other weird part is the crackling you hear. When you hear recordings, people always think like, why is your mic distorting? And you're like, that's actually what it sounds like. It's this high pitched crackle. And that's literally all these little sonic booms happening from the exhaust. The exhaust is absolutely disrupting the air. and it's at supersonic speeds. And so you hear these crackles and these pops and these really high-pitched snaps, almost like mini little thunder. And that's literally what it is. So you hear this low rumble that you feel, but then you also have this really high crackle that you're not expecting, I don't think. And some days it's depending on like the humidity and where the clouds are, you hear it and feel it way differently. So it's, how would I describe it? I would say it's consuming would be a good word. Like it's while of, especially Starship, but even almost any launch when you're close to it and you feel it, it's consuming. You kind of forget about everything else and it just sort of takes over. So, yeah, that'd be how I describe it. So, all right, let's see here. I think that's it. I don't think I probably won't be at New Glenn depending on when it is. If it's way later in the year, maybe, but not this summer or early fall. I will not be available. But thank you all so much for all of you guys for hanging out. Really, sincerely, I really appreciate it. They're wrapping up the stream too, so this is actually perfect for me. And it's perfect time for me to go. So thank you so much for tuning in with me and hanging out. Congrats again to Crew-11, to NASA, to SpaceX, to JAXA, to Roscosmos, and to the 4 crew members who are now in orbit on their way to the International Space Station. I should say, if you want to see the coolest docking footage, by the way, I should probably try to pull this up. I need to remember to do this myself. This is why I'm telling you this, because I was planning to watch it. If you go on YouTube, a little website called YouTube, and you go to, come on, how can I not find it right now? Here we go. Okay, I'm going to show you this. This is a pro tip. If you want to see the best footage of docking, I won't be able to stream docking, and I typically don't because it's not actually that exciting. The first ones are exciting, and then after that, that's like, yeah. Sen, go to SEN. If you're one of the 2,500 people watching this right now, these guys only, and I'm not signed in, otherwise I am subscribed to Sen. But you should be, they only have 29,000 subscribers. They have multiple 4K cameras up on the International Space Station with the best views of docking and the best views of Earth. Like, look at this. This is real time, and they have wide angle, they have tight. I think they have 4 cameras if I remember right. But I need to remember to shout them out because this is like the coolest footage. And in fact, if this was facing the right way, it's not, I don't think, right now. You'd actually literally be able to see Dragon already probably approaching, but it'll be a while before you can actually see that. But how cool is that? A little pro tip there that you can actually go to Sen on YouTube and watch. This is actually a replay during loss of signal. So they do have, loss of signal, but they let you know about it with replays. But most of the time it's live, which is awesome. But yeah, you can see right now where they're at. They're literally like, that's the place where you deorbit rockets because there's no one around. It's yeah, so that's why. Anyway, that was my shout out to Sen because I love those guys and I think that's awesome. And I put this up sometimes when I'm just working and I think it's beautiful footage. So you should know about it too. All right, that's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Goodbye, everybody.